Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Rising Word Air. This is your captain, Elliot Winslow. Tonight, we embark on a journey through the celestial world of Kenji Miyazawa, where the stars shine with stories of fate and longing. First, the Nighthawk Star, a tale of an outcast bird seeking solace among the stars, a journey of rejection, sacrifice, and transcendence. Then, the twin stars, a dreamlike fable of two celestial children playing among the heavens, weaving light and harmony into the sky. Both stories illuminate the beauty and sorrow of the universe, where even the smallest beings leave a radiant mark in the night. Fasten your seatbelts and let your imagination take flight. Our literary voyage begins now. The Nighthawk Star. The nighthawk is truly an ugly bird. Its face is mottled, as if smeared with patches of Japanese miso, and its beak is flat, splitting all the way to its ears. Its legs are frail and wobbly, unable to walk even a single ken in distance. Other birds found it so unpleasant that just seeing the nighthawk's face was enough to make them recoil. For example, while the skylark wasn't exactly a beautiful bird, it still considered itself far superior to the nighthawk. So, when the skylark happened to encounter the nighthawk in the evening, it would close its eyes disdainfully and turn its neck away in disgust. Smaller, more talkative birds would outright mock the nighthawk to its face. Look, there it is again. Just look at that mess, truly a disgrace to birdkind. Check out that massive beak. It's probably some kind of frog relative or something. Such were their remarks. If it were a real hawk, these small birds would have shivered at just hearing its name, their faces paling as they shrank their bodies and hid among the leaves. But the nighthawk was neither a hawk's sibling nor its kin. In fact, the nighthawk was related to the beautiful kingfisher and the jewel-like hummingbird. Still, it might seem strange that the nighthawk bore the name hawk, but there were two reasons for this. First, its wings were incredibly strong, and when it sliced through the wind in flight, it looked just like a hawk. Second, its sharp cry also bore some resemblance to that of a hawk. Of course, the hawks themselves despised this and took great offense. Whenever they saw the nighthawk, they would puff out their chests in anger and shout, "Change your name, change your name." One evening, a hawk finally came to the nighthawk's home. "You there? Still haven't changed your name?" the hawk called out, his voice sharp and commanding. "You've got no shame, do you? You and I are completely different. For example, I can soar endlessly through the blue skies, but you only come out on cloudy, dim days or at night. And look at my beak and claws, compare them to yours and see the difference." "That's too much to ask," the nighthawk replied weakly. "My name wasn't something I chose. It was given to me by God." "That's nonsense," the hawk snapped. "If it were my name, I could say it was given by God. But yours, it's borrowed from me and the night. Now, return it." "Hawk, that's impossible," the nighthawk cried out, his tone trembling. "It's not impossible," the hawk shot back. "I'll even give you a better name, Ichizo. Yes, Ichizo. It's a great name, isn't it? Here's what you need to do to change your name. Tie a plaque around your neck that says Ichizo, and go to every bird's house. At each house, bow and announce, 'From now on, I shall be known as Ichizo.'" "I can't do that," the nighthawk protested desperately. "You can, and you will," the hawk growled. "If you don't do this by the morning after tomorrow, I'll grab you and kill you on the spot. I'll check with every bird to see if you visited their house. If even one says you didn't come, that'll be the end of you." "That's far too much to ask," the Nighthawk pleaded. "I'd rather die than do such a thing. Just kill me now." "Well, think it over," the hawk said coldly, flapping his wide wings. "Ichizo isn't such a bad name, you know." With that, the hawk spread its great wings wide and flew back to its nest. The Nighthawk closed his eyes and thought deeply. Why is it that everyone hates me so much? Is it because my face looks like it's smeared with Japanese miso, or because my mouth is split open? Even so, I've never done anything wrong. When a baby Japanese white-eye fell from its nest, I helped it back up. But then the Japanese white-eye snatched the baby away from me, as if I were a thief, and laughed at me. And now, they want me to be called Ichizo, wearing a tag around my neck? How cruel this world is. The surroundings had already grown dim. The Nighthawk flew out of his nest. The clouds glowed spitefully as they hung low in the sky. The Nighthawk flew silently, skimming close to the clouds. Then, suddenly, he opened his mouth wide, stretched his wings straight out, and shot across the sky like an arrow. Tiny insects flew into his throat, one after another. Before his body could touch the ground, the Nighthawk darted back into the sky. The clouds had turned gray, and the distant mountains were lit with the crimson glow of a wildfire. When the Nighthawk flew with all his might, it felt as if the sky itself was split in two. A beetle flew into his throat and squirmed violently. The Nighthawk swallowed it, but a shiver ran down his back. The clouds had turned completely black, with only the eastern sky glowing red from the wildfire, a terrifying sight. Feeling his chest tighten, the Nighthawk soared higher. Another beetle entered his throat, thrashing wildly as if clawing at him from within. The Nighthawk forced it down, but his heart suddenly pounded, and he let out a loud, sorrowful cry. Crying, he flew in circles around the sky. Oh, the beetles, the countless insects I've killed every night. And now I too will be killed by the hawk. That thought pains me so deeply. I can't bear this anymore. I won't eat another insect. I'll starve instead. Or perhaps the hawk will kill me before that. No, I'll fly far away, far beyond the distant sky. The wildfire spread like flowing water, and the clouds seemed to burn crimson as well. The Nighthawk flew straight to his brother, the kingfisher. The beautiful kingfisher had just woken and was watching the distant blaze. Seeing the Nighthawk descend, he said. The Nighthawk flew straight to his younger brother, the kingfisher. The beautiful kingfisher had just woken up and was watching a distant wildfire. When he saw the Nighthawk land, he called out to him, "Brother, good evening. Is something urgent?" the kingfisher asked. "No, I'm going far away this time," the Nighthawk replied. "I just came to see you before I go." "Brother, you can't leave," the kingfisher said, his voice filled with concern. "The honeysucker is already so far away, and if you leave too, I'll be all alone." "Well, it can't be helped," the Nighthawk said quietly. "Please, let's not talk about it tonight. And one more thing, promise me this. Only take fish when you absolutely have to. Don't take them unnecessarily. All right, goodbye." "Brother, what's wrong?" "Wait just a little longer," the kingfisher pleaded. "No, it doesn't matter how long I stay. It's the same," the Nighthawk said firmly. "Send my regards to the honeysucker. Goodbye. We won't see each other again. Goodbye." The Nighthawk flew away, tears streaming down his face, and returned to his home. The short summer night was already beginning to break into dawn. The ferns, damp with morning mist, swayed cool and blue. The nighthawk called out sharply, "Kish, kish, kish." He tidied his nest, smoothed his feathers, and flew out once more. The mist cleared, and the sun rose in the east. The nighthawk, squinting against the blinding light, flew like an arrow straight toward the sun. "Dear sun, please take me to your side. I don't mind if I burn to death. Even a wretched creature like me will give off a faint light as I burn. Please, take me with you." No matter how far he flew, the sun never got closer. Instead, it seemed to grow smaller and more distant. Then the sun spoke. "You are the Nighthawk, aren't you? Yes, I can see you're suffering. This time fly to the stars and ask them. You're not a bird of the day after all." The Nighthawk bowed, but suddenly felt dizzy and fell onto the grass of the field below. He felt as though he were dreaming. His body seemed to ascend through red and yellow stars, be swept endlessly by the wind, or even be caught by the hawk again. A cold drop suddenly fell on his face, and he opened his eyes. A drop of dew had fallen from the leaf of a young reed. The night had fully fallen, and the sky was dark blue, filled with countless twinkling stars. The Nighthawk soared into the sky. The wildfire still glowed crimson in the distance. He flew through the faint glow of the flames and the cold starlight circling the sky. Then, with all his might, he flew straight toward the beautiful stars of Orion and cried out, "Oh stars, the pale blue stars of the west, please take me to your side. I don't mind if I burn to death." But Orion, singing a brave song, paid no attention to the Nighthawk. The Nighthawk, on the verge of tears, wobbled and nearly fell from the sky. He managed to steady himself and began flying again, this time toward the southern Canis Major. As he flew, he cried out, "Oh stars, the blue stars of the south, please take me to your side. I don't mind if I burn to death." Canis Major, twinkling beautifully in shades of blue, purple, and yellow, replied sharply, "Foolish bird, who do you think you are? You're nothing but a bird. With those wings of yours, it would take billions or trillions of years to reach here." Then Canis Major turned away, ignoring him. The Nighthawk was crushed. He faltered and nearly fell again. Gathering his strength, he flew in 2 wide circles and resolved to try once more. He headed straight toward the stars of the northern Ursa Major, crying out, "Oh stars, the blue stars of the north, please take me to your side." Ursa Major, calm and composed, responded quietly, "Stop concerning yourself with such things. If you need to cool your head, plunge into the ocean where the icebergs float, or if there's no ocean nearby, jump into a glass of water with ice. That's the best thing for you." The Nighthawk felt deeply dejected. He staggered and nearly fell yet again. Determined, he flew 4 wide circles through the night sky before making one final attempt. He turned toward the east, to the white stars of the eagle across the Milky Way, and cried out as he flew, "Oh stars, the white stars of the east, please take me to your side. I don't mind if I burn to death." The eagle spoke in a powerful, commanding voice. No, it's utterly impossible. To become a star, you need a status worthy of it, and it takes a great deal of money too." The Nighthawk, utterly disheartened, closed his wings and began to fall toward the ground. Just as his weak feet were about to touch the earth, the Nighthawk suddenly shot upward like a blazing signal fire. He ascended to the middle of the sky, and then, like an eagle preparing to attack a bear, he shook his body violently and fluffed up his feathers. Then he cried out in a high, piercing voice, "Kish, kish, 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 kish." The cry was as sharp as a hawk's. Birds sleeping in the fields and forests below woke up, trembling, and looked up at the starry sky in confusion and fear. The Nighthawk flew higher and higher, straight into the heavens. The wildfire below now looked no bigger than the ember of a cigarette. Still, he kept climbing. His breath froze white in his chest from the cold. The thinning air forced him to flap his wings faster and faster. Yet despite his efforts, the stars appeared no closer than before. His breath came in gasps, like the bellows of a forge, and the cold and frost pierced him like swords. His wings went numb, and with tear-filled eyes, he looked up at the sky one last time. This was the Nighthawk's final moment. He no longer knew if he was falling or rising, if he was upside down or upright, but his heart was at peace, and though his blood-stained large beak was bent to the side, it seemed to form a faint smile. Some time passed before the Nighthawk opened his eyes again. He saw that his body had transformed into a beautiful, luminous blue flame, burning gently in the night sky. Right beside him was the constellation Cassiopeia. The pale, milky light of the galaxy stretched out behind him, and the Nighthawk Star continued to burn. It burned and burned, endlessly, forever. Even now, it still burns. The twin stars. On the western bank of the Milky Way, you can see two tiny stars, no larger than spores of horsetail. These are the small palaces of water spirits where the twin stars, Chansey and Poussey, reside. These two transparent palaces face each other directly. Every night, the twins return to their palaces, sit properly, and play their silver flutes in harmony with the celestial song of the star's journey through the sky. This was the sacred duty of the twin stars. One morning, as the sun solemnly shook its body and ascended from the east, Chansey set down his silver flute and spoke to Poussey. "Poussey, isn't it time to stop?" Chansey said. "The sun has risen and the clouds are shining white. Shall we go to the spring in the western meadow today?" But Poussey, still half asleep and absorbed in his flute playing, kept his eyes half closed. Chansey then descended from his palace, put on his shoes, climbed the steps to Poussey's palace, and spoke again. "Poussey, isn't it time to stop?" Chansey asked once more. "The eastern sky is blazing white, and down below it seems the little birds are already waking up. Let's go to the spring in the western meadow today. We can make mist with a windmill and play by sending little rainbows into the air." At last, Poussey noticed, and startled, put down his flute. "Oh, Chansey, I'm so sorry," Poussey said. "It's already bright, isn't it? I'll put on my shoes right away." And so, Poussey put on his white shell shoes, and the two of them set off together, singing happily as they walked across the silver meadows of the sky. Clear the sun's path as it passes. Scatter the light through the heavenly white clouds. Bury deep the stones of the sun's path. Cover them well with heavenly blue clouds. Before long they reached the celestial spring. This spring, on clear nights, can be seen clearly from below. It is located far from the western bank of the Milky Way, surrounded by tiny blue stars in a perfect circle. The spring's bed is paved flat with small blue pebbles, and from between the stones, crystal clear water bubbles up, forming a small stream that flows from one edge of the spring and runs into the Milky Way. During times of drought on Earth, thin nightjars and cuckoos look up at it longingly, their throats trembling with thirst, though they can never reach it. Only celestial beings like the great starry crow, the scorpion star, or the rabbit star can get there with ease. "Poussey, shall we start by making a waterfall here?" Chansey asked. Yes, let's do that. I'll gather the stones, Poussey replied. Chansey took off his shoes and stepped into the little stream, while Poussey began collecting stones from the shore. Now the air was filled with the fragrant scent of apples. It came from the silver moon, lingering faintly in the western sky, exhaling its essence. Suddenly, from beyond the meadow, a loud singing voice could be heard. On the western bank of the Milky Way, there lies a skybound well. The water sparkles and the depths gleam, encircled by tiny blue stars. The nightjar, the owl, the plover, the jay, they call to come, but never can. Oh, it's the great starry crow, the twins said in unison. The tall stalks of silver grass in the sky rustled as the great crow parted them, striding toward them in large, deliberate steps. Draped in a black velvet cloak and wearing black velvet leggings, the imposing figure approached. The great crow stopped in front of the two and bowed deeply with courtesy. Well, well, good day, Chansey and Poussey. Such beautiful weather we're having. But when it's so clear, my throat becomes terribly parched. And last night, I fear I sang a bit too high. Pardon me, he said, before plunging his head into the spring. Please, drink as much as you like, Poussey said politely. Without pausing for breath, the great crow drank deeply for 3 full minutes, his throat making audible gulps. Finally, he raised his head, blinked his eyes a few times with a sharp flicker, and shook his head with a vigorous shake, sending droplets flying everywhere. At that moment, another voice, a harsh, rough singing voice, echoed from the distance. The great crow's face darkened instantly, and his body began to tremble violently. From the southern sky, the red-eyed scorpion, with venomous claws and mighty pincers. The fool birds who don't know him, beware. That's the Scorpion Star, the great crow growled, shaking with rage. The nerve of him, calling me a fool bird of all things. Just wait. If he comes here, I'll pluck those red eyes of his right out. Before Chansey could say, Great Crow, you mustn't. The king will know. The red-eyed Scorpion Star appeared on the horizon. Its massive pincers swung back and forth, and its long tail dragged behind it with a scraping noise that echoed across the tranquil celestial meadow. The great crow trembled with fury. Shaking so hard, it seemed he might leap at the scorpion at any moment. The twin stars frantically gestured and waved their hands, desperately trying to calm him down. The scorpion, ignoring the great crow entirely, crawled up to the edge of the spring and said, "Ah, my throat is so parched. Hello, twins. Pardon me, but I'll have to drink some water. This water smells oddly earthy. Looks like some big black fool dunked their head in it. Well, no matter. I'll bear it." With that, the scorpion began to gulp down water for nearly 10 minutes, making loud swallowing sounds. All the while, he deliberately flicked his venomous hooked tail in the great crow's direction, as though mocking him. Finally, the great crow could no longer contain his anger. He spread his wings wide and shouted, "Hey, scorpion! You've been insulting me, calling me a fool bird and all that. Why don't you apologize right now?" The scorpion lifted his head from the water, his fiery red eyes blazing, and sneered. "Humph, someone's squawking about something. Who could it be? Perhaps the one with red eyes? Or maybe the one with gray feathers? Shall I give them a taste of my hook?" The great crow, enraged, leapt into the air and yelled, "You insolent wretch! I'll send you tumbling straight to the far end of the sky." The scorpion, equally furious, twisted his massive body with surprising agility, raising his venomous tail into the air. The great crow dodged the attack by flying higher, then dove back down with his beak aimed like a spear directly at the scorpion's head. Chansey and Poussey had no time to intervene. The scorpion took a deep wound to the head, and the great crow was struck in the chest by the scorpion's venomous hook. Both let out a groan before collapsing, tangled together, unconscious. The scorpion's blood began to spill into the sky, forming an ominous red cloud. Chansei hurriedly put on his shoes and said, "This is terrible. The great crow's been poisoned. We must draw it out immediately. Poussey, can you hold him steady?" Poussey quickly put on his shoes, ran behind the great crow, and held him firmly. Chansei leaned over and pressed his mouth to the wound on the great crow's chest. "Chansei, don't swallow the poison," Poussey warned. "Spit it out right away." Chansei nodded silently and drew the poisonous blood out of the wound, spitting it out 6 times. Finally, the great crow stirred, slowly opened his eyes, and said weakly, "Oh, thank you. What happened to me? I thought I took that scoundrel down." "You must rinse your wound in the stream right away," Chansei replied. "Can you walk?" The great crow staggered to his feet, glared at the scorpion's lifeless body, and shuddered as he muttered, "Damn that venomous pest of the sky. He should be grateful to die here." The twins helped the great crow to the stream, where they gently washed his wound. Then they blew fragrant breaths over it several times and said, "There, you should go home now. Walk slowly and make sure to return before nightfall. And please, don't do anything like this again. The king knows everything that happens." The great crow, now utterly dejected, drooped his wings limply and bowed several times. "Thank you. Thank you. I will be more careful from now on," he said, dragging his feet as he walked off across the silver fields of grass. The twins examined the scorpion. The wound on his head was quite deep, but the bleeding had already stopped. They scooped up water from the spring and carefully cleaned the wound. Then, taking turns, they gently blew their breaths over it. By the time the sun had reached the center of the sky, the scorpion faintly opened his eyes. "How are you feeling?" Poussey asked, wiping the sweat from his brow. The scorpion muttered weakly, "Did that crow die?" Chansei, slightly annoyed, replied, "Are you still saying such things? You were the one who almost died. Come on, gather your strength and head home. If you don't return before dark, it will be trouble for you." The scorpion's eyes gleamed oddly as he said, "Twins, would you be so kind as to escort me? Since you've already helped me so far," Poussey said, "we'll take you there. Come on, hold on to us." Chansei added, "Yes, hold on to me as well. We need to hurry, or we won't get home before nightfall. If that happens, we'll miss tonight's celestial journey." The scorpion grabbed onto the twins and began to stagger forward. The weight of the scorpion was overwhelming, almost bending the twins' shoulders. In size alone, the scorpion was at least 10 times larger than the twins. Even so, the two pressed on, their faces flushed red, taking one step at a time. The scorpion dragged his hooked tail across the stones with a grating sound, exhaling harsh, unpleasant breaths as he lumbered along. They made almost no progress, less than 10 towns in an hour. The twins' shoulders and chests ached from the heavy burden. The scorpion's grip was so tight it bit painfully into their skin, and they could barely tell if their bodies were still their own. The celestial meadow glistened white under the sky's light. They passed 7 little streams and 10 grassy plains. The twins' heads spun, and they could no longer tell whether they were walking or standing still. Yet, they silently continued, one step at a time. 6 hours had passed. They were still an hour and a half away from the scorpion's home. The sun was already dipping toward the western mountains. "Can't you hurry just a bit?" Poussey asked. "We need to get home within the next hour and a half, too. Are you in much pain?" "Yes, it hurts terribly," the scorpion whimpered. tears streaming down his face. "Please have mercy." "We're almost there," Chansei said, enduring the sharp pain in his nearly breaking shoulders. "Does your wound hurt much?" The sun swayed solemnly 3 times before disappearing behind the western mountains. "We must head back now," Pausei exclaimed. "This is a problem. Is there anyone here who can help us?" The heavenly fields remained silent. No reply came. The western clouds glowed a brilliant red, and the scorpion's red eyes gleamed sadly. Far away in the sky, the stronger stars began to appear, donned in their silver armor and singing as they emerged. "First star spotted. Make me a wealthy man," a child shouted from below, gazing up at the sky. Chansei said, "Scorpion, we're almost there. Can't you move just a little faster? Are you tired?" The scorpion said in a pitiful voice, "I'm completely exhausted. Please forgive me. Just a little longer, I beg you." "Star, star, 1 star won't do. 1,000, 10,000, that's the rule," shouted another child from below. By now, the western mountains had turned pitch black, and stars were beginning to twinkle here and there in the sky. Chansei, his back bent and nearly collapsing under the strain, said, "Scorpion, we're already too late for tonight's schedule. The king will surely be angry with us. We might even be exiled. But if you don't return to your rightful place, it will be an even bigger problem." Pausei, on the verge of collapsing, added, "I'm so tired I feel like I might die. Scorpion, please muster your strength and hurry back." With that, Pausei finally fell to the ground with a thud. The scorpion wept and said, "Please forgive me. I'm such a fool. I'm not even worthy of a single strand of your hair. I will surely change my ways and make amends. I promise I will." At that moment, a flash of brilliant blue light appeared in the distance. A lightning spirit, clad in a fierce, shimmering blue mantle, streaked across the sky and landed before them. Bowing, he said, "I have come on the king's orders to escort you. Come, hold on to my mantle, and I will take you to your palace at once. For some reason, the king is in high spirits tonight, and you, Scorpion, you've been a source of trouble, haven't you? Here, take this medicine the king has bestowed. Drink it." The twins exclaimed, "Goodbye, Scorpion. Quickly, take the medicine, and remember your promise. You must keep it. Farewell." They clung to the lightning spirit's mantle, while the scorpion prostrated himself, bowing deeply and drinking the medicine. He then raised his head and bowed again with great care. With a dazzling flash of light, the lightning spirit flew through the sky, and in no time, the twins found themselves standing beside the spring once again. The lightning spirit spoke. "Now wash yourselves thoroughly. The king has provided you with new clothes and shoes. You still have 15 minutes." The twin stars joyfully bathed in the crystal-clear stream, then dressed in fragrant, shimmering blue garments and put on their new gleaming white shoes. Instantly, all their fatigue and pain melted away, leaving them refreshed and invigorated. "Let's go," said the lightning spirit. The twins clung once more to the mantle, and with a single flash of violet light, they found themselves standing in front of their palace. The lightning spirit was gone. "Chansei, let's prepare ourselves," said Pausei. "Pausei, let's get ready," said Chansei. The two climbed up to their palaces, sat facing each other properly, and took up their silver flutes. All around, the stars began singing their celestial song. Red-eyed scorpion, spread wings of the mighty eagle, blue-eyed little dog, the coiled serpent of light. Orion sings high above, shedding dew and frost below, the cloud of Andromeda shaped like a fish's mouth. The great bear's foot points north, stretching out 5 steps more, Above the little bear's brow lies the guide of the sky's great path. The twin stars raised their silver flutes and began to play. On the western bank of the Milky Way, two tiny blue stars can be seen. These are Chansei and Paosei, twin stars who each reside in a small palace made of crystal clear water. The two palaces face each other directly. Every night, the twins return to their palaces, sit properly, and play their silver flutes in harmony with the celestial song of the stars' journey through the sky. This was their solemn duty as twin stars. One evening, the lower sky was covered with thick black clouds, and rain poured down in torrents beneath them. Despite the storm, the twins sat as usual in their respective palaces, facing each other, and played their flutes. Suddenly, a large, boisterous comet appeared, exhaling a mist of pale blue light over their palaces, and said, "Hey, you blue twins, why not take a little trip? You don't need to stick to your routine tonight. No sailors are using the stars for navigation in this weather. They can't see a thing through the clouds. The astronomers at the observatories are taking the night off, yawning in boredom. Even that cheeky little schoolboy who's always stargazing has given up and is drawing pictures at home instead. The stars will keep spinning just fine without your flutes. Come on, take a break. I'll have you back here by tomorrow evening." Chansei paused his flute playing and said, "Well, the king does allow us to stop playing on cloudy nights. We were only playing because we enjoy it." Paosei also stopped his flute and added, "But taking a trip? That's something we definitely don't have permission for. The clouds could clear up at any moment." "Don't worry about that," said the comet. "The king told me himself. He said to me one cloudy night, 'Take those twin stars on a little trip sometime. Let's go. It'll be fun. My nickname is the Sky Whale, you know. Ever heard of me? I gulp down all the skinny little stars like sardines and swallow up black meteors like they're minnows. And the best part? Making sharp, bone-crunching curves when I fly straight ahead at top speed and then whip back around. My body creaks and groans like it's going to fall apart, and even my bones of light make cracking sounds." Paosei turned to Chansei and said, "Chansei, should we go? If the king really said it's okay, then it should be fine." Chansei hesitated. "But can we really believe that the king gave his permission?" The comet replied, If I'm lying, may my head split open, my body shatter into pieces, and my tail fall into the sea to become a sea cucumber. I'm not a liar." "Then swear by the king," said Paosei. "Fine, I swear," said the comet nonchalantly. He raised his voice and declared, "By the king's orders, the twin blue stars will embark on a journey tonight. There, see? Satisfied?" The twins looked at each other and said together, "All right, let's go." The comet suddenly adopted a stern and serious demeanor. "Now, grab onto my tail tightly. Hold on firmly. Ready?" The twins clung tightly to the comet's tail. The comet exhaled a pale blue light with a whoosh and said, "All right, let's go. Gi, 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 foo, gi, gi, foo." Truly, the comet was like a whale of the sky. The weaker stars scattered and fled in every direction as it barreled through. They had traveled quite a distance already. The twins' palaces were now far, far behind, reduced to tiny blue-white specks in the distance. Chansei said, "We've come so far already. Are we near the edge of the Milky Way?" But at that moment, the comet's demeanor changed entirely. "Ha! Forget the edge of the Milky Way. Look out for your own edge," he jeered. 1, 2, 3. The comet violently whipped its tail 2 or 3 times, and for good measure, turned back to release a fierce blast of pale blue mist. The twins were blown off and sent tumbling down into the void. As they fell, the comet laughed maniacally. Ha 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 ha! Everything I swore earlier? All lies. Gee, gee, gee. Foo, gee, gee, foo. He cackled as he sped off into the distance. The twins, plummeting through the blue-black void, grasped each other's elbows tightly. No matter where they fell, the twin stars had resolved to fall together. When their bodies finally entered the atmosphere, the air roared like thunder around them, and red sparks crackled wildly, dizzying to behold. Then, with a tremendous impact, they pierced through thick black clouds and plunged like arrows into a dark, stormy sea. The twins sank deeper and deeper. Yet, strangely, they could breathe freely, even underwater. The ocean floor was soft and muddy, with large dark shapes lying motionless and swirling seaweed swaying gently in the currents. "This must be the bottom of the sea," Chansei said. "We'll never be able to rise back up to the sky. What will happen to us now?" Pausei replied, "We were deceived by that comet. He even lied to the king. Isn't he the most despicable creature?" Just then, a small red starfish glowing faintly in the shape of a star appeared at their feet and said, "Where in the sea are you from?" "You're wearing the mark of a blue starfish." Pausei answered, "We're not starfish, we're stars." At this, the starfish grew angry. "What did you say? Stars? Listen here. Every starfish was once a star. You two must have just arrived here, huh?" "I see, fresh starfish. Fresh criminals, are you? Claiming you're still stars even after ending up here. That kind of arrogance won't get you anywhere at the bottom of the sea. I'll have you know that back when I was in the sky, I was a first-class soldier." Pausei looked up sadly toward the distant surface. The rain had stopped and the clouds had completely cleared. The ocean's surface had grown so calm it looked like glass, and the sky was now clearly visible. The Milky Way, the Sky Well, the Eagle Star, the Lyre Star, and even the twins' tiny palaces could be seen in the distance as faint blue points of light. "Chansei, the sky is completely visible now," Pausei said. "We can see our palaces too, and yet we've turned into starfish." "Pausei, there's nothing we can do about it now," Chansei replied. "Let's bid farewell to everyone in the sky from here, and though we can't see him, let's apologize to the king as well. Goodbye, king." "From today we are starfish," Pausei said. "Goodbye, king. Foolish as we were deceived by the comet. From now on we'll crawl through the mud at the bottom of this dark ocean," Chansei added. "Farewell, king, and all the celestial beings. We wish for your prosperity," said Pausei. "Goodbye, everyone, and to the most noble king above, may you continue your reign forever," Chansei concluded. A group of red starfish gathered around the twins, surrounding them and chattering noisily. "Hey, hand over your clothes. Give me your sword. Pay your taxes. Shrink down smaller. Clean my shoes." At that moment, a massive black figure roared past overhead with a thunderous goo goo goo. The starfish all panicked and quickly bowed. The dark figure seemed to be leaving, but stopped abruptly, looked closely at the twins and said, So you're new recruits. You haven't even learned how to bow properly yet. Don't you know who I am? They call me the whale of the sea. Ever heard of me? I gobble up all the skinny little fish like sardines and swallow blind minnows whole. And the best part, making slow, sweeping curves as I glide back in a full circle. It makes the oil in my body turn thick and sticky. Now show me the decree of your banishment from the heavens." The twins exchanged glances. Chansei said, "We don't have anything like that." The whale grew furious and let out a deep, gurgling blast of water from his mouth. The starfish around them turned pale and stumbled, but the twins stood firm and unyielding. "You don't have a decree, you scoundrels," the whale roared. "Everyone banished from the heavens comes here with a decree of banishment. There's never been an exception. You are utterly outrageous. Prepare to be swallowed." The whale opened his mouth wide, ready to devour them. The starfish and nearby fish, fearing they'd be caught in the crossfire, dove into the mud or fled in panic. At that moment, a silver light pierced the water, and a small sea snake glided toward them. The whale, visibly startled, quickly closed his mouth. The sea snake, staring intently at the twins, said curiously, "What happened to you? You don't look like beings who committed wrongdoing and were cast down from the heavens." The whale interjected, "They don't even have a decree of banishment." The sea snake glared sharply at the whale and said, "Silence, insolent creature. How dare you speak so rudely of these two? You can't even recognize the halo of goodness above their heads. If they had done something wrong, you'd see a black shadow over their heads with its mouth wide open. Stars, please come this way. I will guide you to the king. Starfish, light the way. And whale, no more misbehavior." The whale scratched his head sheepishly and prostrated himself in submission. To the twins' amazement, the red starfish lined up in two broad rows, forming a path illuminated like a street. The sea snake, shaking his white hair, bowed respectfully and said, "Now let us proceed." The twins followed the sea snake, walking down the illuminated path between the starfish. Before long, they reached a great white castle gate, glowing in the greenish-blue light of the ocean depths. The doors opened on their own, and a host of dignified sea snakes emerged to escort the twin stars to the king of the sea. The king, an old man with a long white beard, smiled kindly and said, "So you are Chansei and Pausei. I know of you well. The story of how you risked your lives to correct the scorpion's wicked heart has even reached here. I had that tale included in our elementary school textbooks, but this time you've had quite the misfortune, haven't you? It must have been a shocking ordeal." Chansei said, "Your Majesty, your words are far too kind. Since we can no longer return to the heavens, we humbly wish to serve you here in whatever way we can." The king replied, No, your humility humbles me. I will immediately summon a tornado to escort you back to the heavens. Once you return, please tell your king that the sea serpent sends his regards." Pausei, overjoyed, asked, "Then, your Majesty, do you know our king?" "I am but his foolish servant. No, you won't understand this now, but someday you will. Before the night ends, I shall have the tornado accompany you back. Is everything prepared?" The king, startled, stepped down from his throne and said, "Know him? That doesn't even begin to describe it. Your king is my one and only king. Long ago he was my teacher. I am but his foolish servant. No, you won't understand this now, but someday you will. Before the night ends, I shall have the tornado accompany you back. Is everything prepared?" One of the servant sea serpents replied, "Yes, the tornado awaits at the gate." The twins bowed deeply to the king. "Your Majesty, we bid you farewell. We will express our gratitude properly from the heavens. May your palace flourish forever." The king stood and said, "And may you continue to shine brilliantly. Farewell." The gathered servants bowed reverently in unison. The twins exited the gates. Outside, the tornado lay coiled in a silvery spiral, waiting. A sea serpent lifted the twins and placed them gently on the tornado's head. The twins clung tightly to its horns. At that moment, a crowd of red starfish appeared, calling out, "Goodbye. Please send our regards to the King of the Sky. Pray that we too may someday be forgiven." The twins responded together. "We will surely convey your message until we meet again in the sky." The tornado slowly began to rise. "Goodbye, goodbye," the starfish cried. The tornado emerged from the dark sea and into the air above. Suddenly, with a tremendous crackling roar, it shot upward like an arrow, soaring higher and higher into the heavens. There was still a long time before dawn. The Milky Way grew closer and closer, and the twins' palaces came clearly into view. "Look over there," the tornado said quietly in the darkness. The twins turned to see the great blue-white comet, now broken apart into pieces. Its head, tail, and body were separated, glowing harshly and screeching in a crazed voice as they tumbled into the dark sea below. "It will become a sea cucumber," the tornado said calmly. Already, the celestial song of the stars' journey through the heavens could be heard. Soon, the tornado delivered the twins to their palaces. The tornado set them down gently and said, "Goodbye, and may you stay well," before whisking away like the wind, returning to the sea. The twin stars ascended to their respective palaces. Sitting properly, they addressed the unseen King of the Sky. "We deeply apologize for neglecting our duties due to our carelessness. Despite this, through your mercy, we were miraculously saved tonight. The King of the Sea asked us to convey his great respect to you. Additionally, the starfish at the bottom of the sea begged for your compassion. We also humbly ask for your forgiveness for the sea cucumber, if it may be granted." Then the twins took up their silver flutes. The eastern sky turned golden, and dawn was moments away.